Morning, everyone. We're here for the October 8th, 2025 policy meeting. And President Dr. Owens, R.G. O'Leary, myself, Matt Bergeron, and Superintendent Franklin Free. Today, we're going to be starting, and I suspect it's going to be an ongoing discussion about grading and student progress. And so with that, I'm going to hand things over to Frank to set the stage and educate us.
All right. So if we wouldn't mind, I'm going to present and then talk a little bit at the same time. So this has been a conversation for a while, and grading is intertwined with everything that we kind of do here in the district. And each building has grading procedures and regulations that they kind of follow. I have not seen anything codified as I've been here that says this is what we do as a district for each building. Now they have basic ideas, but there's been no K-12 kind of thing. I can show you our grading policy that we have, go through that. But we talked about this in the past. So I've shared a couple recommendations of other districts that they have done. And it does range, right? There's a lot of ranges and conversations to have. So what I'm looking for with the board is a conversation like, look at our grading policy and say, do we want to keep it at a high level, set some boundaries and guardrails? Like, because you'll see like Bethlehem has boundaries and guardrails. Schenectady has Bethlehem. Shen has guardrails. Guilderland has guardrails, but then you have regulations that are also in there that are very prescribed, that would take a lot of stakeholder input and conversation across the board to really level up what grading is going to look like in a district.
Right, when you see guardrails, like, what do you mean by that?
That's a perfect example, right? So let me show you, even before we talk about our policy, let's look at Bethlehem's. So I actually printed Bethlehem for you to show you what I mean by guardrails. And then I want to go to our policy to show you what we can do. So if you look at where it says secondary, right? The number one guardrail that you first see is what? What's the grading scale?
5200.
5200. So there's your first guardrail, right? It gives you a benchmark or a framework of where to work from. And then classroom teachers, and then it gives you grading will be based on this. And it gives you very specifics that go around with those things. This is, and there's more that goes along with it, but I kind of just want to share with you some of the expectations that are here. And then if I change that up and I give you Schenectady's, there's the board philosophy and policy, and then there's the district grading operating procedure. And that's the next thing I want to show you. And here's what I mean by even more stringent, more specific. And then we can look at Gilliland's as well. Again, I'm just throwing a lot at you. We can come back to all of them. But if you look at Schenectady's, which we just went through, they have a vision and expectation and viewpoint, which is their board policy. Then their grading and operating procedures aligns with their board policy. And if you can tell on this one, it is there are a lot of guardrails. There's a lot of expectations. It really shows how to grade or what the expectations of grading are.
Teachers have the ability to text from a district text.
To parents? Yes, parents were. Yeah, that was something that just came out.
Okay.
Yeah, we do not encourage staff members to use their personal phone for communication.
Right, okay, good. I wanted to make sure.
Yep. But Parent Square does allow for texting two-way communication, hence one of the reasons we switched over.
Okay.
Again, just I want you to kind of see what's out there a little bit in comparison. So when I show you what we have, you'll understand some of the conversation. Does that make sense? Right. So now I have another one I want to share with you. Unless you want me to stop this,
No.
but I feel like this might be a good way to kind of look at it.
This is,
Oh, it's intense.
Yeah.
It's
I
intense.
was gonna say intense.
They've done a lot of work on this for grading for opportunity as well. So there's a lot of equity built into these grading policies. And again, this is not a one month kind of conversation. This is a long-term conversation. Because even with us, one of the things I think we would have to do is when we're looking at doing this, and if we're looking at regulations and codifying what the practices are in buildings, is we really need to understand what's happening. Right? Stakeholder groups have to work together. They have to identify what the current practices are, what's leveled, what's not leveled, where gaps and weaknesses are in each building. So that way we can even look at if there's any, anywhere to growth, anywhere that we should be moving or not moving, what we should keep, what we shouldn't keep. And really that should be teacher and building level decisions. Really help kind of understand that. I don't grade math. I don't know how to grade math. It's not, my skill set. Next one. I'm going to show you a Gilderland. We have this too. It's in our policy. But I'm going to print it up for you. Show it up here. Okay. I'll make it bigger, I promise. Oh, try. We go. Oh, wrong one. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Okay. Okay. So this is what I mean by the regulations. It makes it kind of clear for us as we're talking about. Here's your policy, 4710. Just like us, they use NISBA, so you'll see some of the similar language. And it goes through everything about the grading policy. We talked about criteria for grading, homework completion, progress criteria, and then that's it. So that's their policy.
Can you go back up again?
Yep. So their policy is not long. Most policies are, as you saw, Bethlehem, page, 2 pages. Schenectady's page, 2 page. Gilderland, page, 2 page. This is where now the meat and potatoes of that comes into. That's what I want to show
So as I'm understanding it, Gilderland doesn't even provide,
Hold on.
as you call them.
They do. That's what I want to show you next. So 4710, I can't do it all at the same time. So then they have regulations, right? 4710-R, right? And that's part of their board policy document. We don't have a 4710-R. We don't have a regulation. We don't have, or even a link to procedures for buildings. We have a curriculum guide, doesn't really say much. I went to the handbooks for high school, middle school, didn't see a ton on grading there. So now, here's what they have. So, yeah, see, now it starts making a little bit more sense, right? So now they talk about the progress reports, parent conferences. Now we have a progress report policy, and so does Bethlehem. So that's not included in this area. They might have combined both of those. I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of dives into it. But they have general guidelines. And then they talk about grading systems are 0 to 100, 65 is considered passing. See, you see where I'm saying there's expectation built in, it shows kind of where we stand. It's forward facing, transparent. And I know these are things that people have always had questions about, right? These are not, for the 6 years that I've been here, those are things that I've heard about grading. And I think it's been brought up here before.
Which is?
Transparency and grading. How are grades made? How are they done? What is the expectation for grading? RG, am I missing?
No, I think like there's just so much gray area in how grades get assigned. And I've quibbled with the fact that we don't weight grades. So when we get to
Yeah.
the
This
end
isn't
of
even that.
a yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know, but
Yep.
by the time you get to the end of a student's high school career,
Mhm.
our graduation policies don't really match what students have achieved.
And another thing about clear systems and grading policies is maybe not everybody will agree. But I think the important thing is that it helps keep everybody together and keeps expectations clear, right? So if I'm a math teacher and Barbara's a math teacher and Artie's a math teacher, and we're all teaching different grades in different courses, right? She teaches fifth grade, I teach sixth grade, Artie teaches seventh grade. From year to year to year, those parents are like, well, I don't understand. The grading was different last year. My child had an 80 last year. This year they have a 50. Last year they had a 90. Well, I grade differently. My expectations were different. If the expectations are the same across the board, it allows for that consistency. And it allows for a clear transparency and a little protection for staff members as well, right? Because there's a clear guideline of how those grades are. Does that make sense? Because as you're flipping from year to year, I've seen it in another district as when we had 3 teachers teaching one math, all the same. When we did a grade audit and we went and we dug into this, what we found, and again, we didn't handle this as a district, this was handled as a building level. We found that each math teacher was grading differently. So one math teacher, the kids in the class skewed higher, one math teacher, the grades skewed lower, and one math teacher, they skewed different, right? So they all had different grades. So we aligned their grading policy, which stopped from the complaints, the movements of kids from classroom to classroom, and it allowed for a very clear expectation of assessment of what the students are learning. And that's the goal.
I guess the flip side of that is what I'm curious about is even when you create, I'm curious about what the interaction between that creating a baseline expectancy and professional discretion in terms of teacher having
That's important.
that,
Right?
because we don't want to take that away from them because that's, it's a profession and,
Yeah.
they teach differently and have expectations.
That's what I mean by guardrails, right? And I think the guardrails are, here's where we want to be, right? So look at goals right here. 50% will be given to students for the first 3 quarters in order to promote student academic success. Before this, it already said teacher discretion is used, right? And teacher have abilities. But it allows that framework of saying, we're not going to have it where a kid gets a 0, 0, 0, and then by 4th quarter, there's no way that they can graduate, pass that course. So it's the guardrails that I'm talking about. The teacher discretion sits in the middle still. It's that's what's on either side and how we're just kind of marking it out.
Going back to the math example
Yeah.
earlier with 3 different teachers, were they calculating the grade differently based on like different elements of grading, like
That was a part.
exam
Yeah.
and quizzes and
Yes.
participation?
One was solving homework very heavily in comparison to another teacher, right?
Okay.
So
Is that something that's typically dealt with involved?
it can be, yep. It can also be done at the building level, right? So that's why I think it's important. And I don't want to take away anything from the building level or from the teachers. I think it's very important because the minute we start doing top-down discussion on some of this stuff and the nitty-gritty, we're making errors. There's no doubt in that. Because you got to have the viewpoint and understanding what's being done. But a lot of times there are policies that say homework should only be 10% because, or should be 20%, or there's building level expectations. And that's what you see more often is that at a building, there comes to a consensus is homework is only going to be 15%. Right. And if you look at a lot of grading for opportunity conversations, you have students that go home, they're doing all of these different things. Like we have kids working full time, we have kids that are caretakers for their families, we have kids that are doing 3 sport athletes, working a job, doing 5 AP courses. And if we're taking those homework and we're saying homework is 50% of your grade, and those kids viably can't do all that homework all the time, then it's impacting. And I'm not talking like seniors here, but they can be. But I'm also talking 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders. And then you talk about the anxiety, pressure, the increase of the, SEL components that go along with it. And they also increase towards graduation and dropout.
So are you saying that there would be a minimum of the components like that homework, like for instance, for a policy can't count for more than 40% of grade or participation can't count for more than 10%?
So what I'm saying is there should be a conversation had at the buildings and based off of science and research and what's out there and saying, what do we expect of our children? What is feasible and how are we going to do it? Because even if you look at certain grades right now in this district, through middle school, through high school, some teachers will give homework, some teachers will not, right? And they will say, well, my homework is this, and it's very important, other teachers won't. So there's even a discrepancy in between grade levels. And that's where I think the conversation has to be had at the building levels, has to be start being fleshed out and, coming forward saying, what is our purpose? Why are we doing this? And a board policy can help just say, why are we, what is our purpose of grading? How are we going to grade? What is our expectation of grading?
So what comes first in that process, the discussions at the building level, and then we take that feedback, or does the board policy drive the building discussion?
So I think these are great conversations. So let's look at our policy. real quick.
Yeah, and by the way, I think these you've been
I've been
having
doing
these
these forever, yep.
conversations for
Yep.
at least the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So,
We've been having them here. This year, they just did a grade book audit. So in a grading audit for the first time, middle school and high school, they went together, the principals worked this through with staff, thought it was fantastic, right? Really looking at how they're using it, what their opportunities look like, and having real honest conversations. So this is happening. These conversations are happening. I think they have to happen at the same time. I think the board has to look at our policy and say, where are we looking at as a board? And then we have to really say, my recommendation is we need to have some type of procedure regulation. If it's building procedures and regulations, great. If it's a board regulation they want in a policy, we can have a conversation with that. I have feelings about those two things, and I explain why. About the board approved regulation in comparison to building procedures.
yeah, I'll say as a general rule, I'm not a huge fan of regulations.
Thank you.
I don't like to make people go look at something else.
Yeah.
So, to the extent there's stuff we think is important enough to say, I would prefer to get some policy.
That's how I feel as well. And and I also think too, like a building procedure, if the buildings come to consensus, they work together. I think that's important, and that can be put in the policy. But I think the minute you put a regulation in, then you have to, in order for them to change it or tweak it, we have to then go through a huge process again. I don't actually think it's necessary. So I appreciate it.
I tend to agree. I don't want to divest people of their judgment because otherwise it debases their function. So
I love that.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So we've already come out with one huge solution today is no regulation. Keep it at the building level. So when we're talking about our policy then, our policy will just have the guide rails, the framework of what we're expecting going forward. So then I can work with the buildings. And I think the goal for this year will really be is codify grading procedures at the building level. How do you feel about that? Like have those building levels really start to codify what does grading mean at the elementary school? What does grading look like at middle school, high school?
Yeah, I mean, one, I would hope that's already in place to some degree, but if not, yes.
Yeah.
The teams should identify what the standard is.
Yeah. So it is. Oh, the standards are
Yeah.
priority, but I think when I say codify is if I were an outside person looking in, or if I'm the superintendent saying, show me what what our grading looks like, or here, this is what our grading is for middle school. Or here's what I couldn't necessarily find something quickly. And that is something where I think we just need to look at it as every school district I look at least has a guidance somewhere, right? Grading procedures, grading outlines, something. Even Bethlehem has procedures, right? They're not, but they're not the board. They're just procedures that they have in the buildings. Expectations. Let me show you our policy. Am I going too fast? Am I going in a different direction here?
Because what I was just going to ask was in order, I need to better understand where we are now.
Yeah, that's what
So that's.
I wanted to kind of first start with what a policy is, the regulations, what districts have, and then how do you feel? So we already got a good understanding, no regulation, great. But we do have an understanding of, clarity and where we stand. So here is our current policy, not the one that I drafted up, not the one that I made recommendations. This is the superintendent draft. This is our current policy, which I already took things out, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just say right off the bat, I don't like ours. There are pieces of Bethlehem and Schenectady that I really like. I think Bethlehem's description of like what grading practices are supposed to do, like that first sentence, I could leave out like culturally responsive classrooms. I don't know if that needs to be in there, but promoting objective assessment of mastery, transparent expectations, growth mindset, focus on learning instead of points and student agency, like those are all things that as a board, I think we support. Teachers will assign grades that are mathematically accurate, bias resistant, motivational, like I think those are really important things to say.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the things, the guardrails, the expectation from a board.
Yeah, and then,
Margie, just not to cut you off, but I just
Yeah.
want to go back before you go to something else. The cultural responsiveness
Yeah.
aspect of that. Portrait of a graduate. So portrait of a graduate, the whole component.
Yeah.
And everything that faces around it will be cultural responsiveness. So I think to get ahead of it, that might be something we want to consider afterwards.
yeah,
'Cause
I
it
mean,
does
if
align
it's,
perfectly.
yeah, if we know that's where the Department of Ed is going.
Yeah, I mean, the
Fine,
thing
I'm
that-
not opposed to
yeah.
it, I just don't know that it needs to be in a grading policy.
Yeah, but where
Um,
nice it's going there, I think it was probably in the.
Yeah, and then, I'm sorry, Barbara, like in Schenectady's home to school communication, like providing the syllabus within the first 2 weeks of the year. Right, explaining how the grades are gonna be calculated, what the expectations are for homework, like all of that. Parents may not look at it, but it should be sent to them. Some teachers do that better than others.
But that comes down to what is the board's expectation of communication?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That really is, again, I don't think it's taking away anything. It's just saying our expectation, there's clarity, there's consistency across the board, right? So this is the policy that we currently have. So I think Arjun brought up all the points, like strong points, right? Our policy doesn't have allowances. It has some. It's-
The mute, are you?
No, I'm on mute here.
Oh, okay.
So just to clarify, it's,
Yeah, we've made that mistake.
I know.
before.
Yeah, no,
That's why I was like, I just.
So- when I, just so y'all know how this one works, when I set up my own meeting, this is my meeting on this computer, this system, I'm a guest.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If somebody else sets up the meeting, I only have to do that. So I have to mute this in my video, otherwise all you'll see is my giant head here. So I mute here, still works perfectly. well.
Understood,
Yeah.
understood.
As I said,
Making
I
sure.
am becoming pretty adept at using the system. So this is where we have not a ton of stuff here. Okay, our grading systems, and when it was touched, it really dealt with, and then where the big conversation was had, it was like 7 or 8 years ago, prior to my arrival, or 9 years ago. It was the Regents exam scores. That was the big deal. Okay, so there's that. Now let's go to my draft. Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
I've been just, and please stop me if I'm like, I just want to make sure we have a really good understanding of all this. And since I live in this world, it's easier for me to understand.
This is superintendent draft policy.
Yes, yep, superintendent draft.
So I
policy.
made more comments. I made comments
Yeah.
in January and then I did again today.
Yeah, this is, I think, the one that we should use, and then we can change off and do things if that's all right. And then we can add Bethlehem's and, go from there. And again, I do want to have these conversations at the building level. I want to make sure that they're all doing this. I don't want anyone to feel like we're usurping any authority that they have in the classroom. But if our goal is transparency and consistency and clarity as a board, that's okay, right? That's the role of the school district, the superintendent, and the board together. Getting down to the nitty gritty. A little bit more. Let me share screen here. So it's a little bit of a kind of stuff. There we go. Okay. RG has comments, so I gotta. So as you can see already, based off of other NISBA policy recommendations, I already took all this out.
Yeah, like our, you see, I have those like mastery progress, like I think we should substitute something similar to the Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Policy right up front.
And I think that makes sense, right? Like, make it clear. We don't have anything about 50s in here. Now, F is a 50 and it's somewhere in a curriculum guide, but we don't have the first 3 quarters, second quarters. There's nothing in that area. So that's a thought process too, is do you want to set a minimum grade at this policy?
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, we hint at like, a grade may be so low that the student can't ever pass,
Right.
right? So we don't
Yeah.
want to put a kid in that situation.
I'm just putting it somewhere. Be clear about 50 benchmark something, right? I'm just gonna say that. Be clear about 50 benchmark.
Mhm.
And then we can come back to that at any other time. And then I added this. And this was off of NISBA. This isn't something that I created. And this is the process in changing student grades. Because there's not clearly defined or delineated anywhere else in the district.
I think it's gonna have to be kind of covers.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, every other policy has it somewhere,
Yeah.
right? There was an audit done of the district. Yeah, gosh, let me see. 13, 14, I'm dating myself now. It was a very long time ago. But that prompted a lot of districts to look at other grading policies and how grades are changed by administrators and or teachers. And then also tracking when you do so, the reason why and sign-offs.
Yeah, in some of these, there's, language that a failing grade can only be entered by the building principal. I think there needs to be more accountability around when a student is failing. Right, like whether that's a conversation with the building principal about what's been done to student, or communicate to people who might care, right? Like, I just feel like that
Like it
whole
shouldn't be that.
process, it should
moment.
never be a surprise.
Totally agree.
And if, like, the building principals should be in the loop when
So
a student.
we also have a board policy. It's 4712. 4712 is progress reports to parents. So that's going to be an area that I think is going to be clear that we could work on.
Yeah, I think, from looking at the three, like the conferences and the, communication, I think those could all be one policy. Cause we repeat the same thing, like there might be an additional sentence or two that's in the separate policies. So I don't know what
Yeah,
you think,
Which
like-
policies?
like the ones that we have on the agenda, like the
Because we only
progress
have
reports and
4712.
parent conferences.
We don't have a 4714.
No. I don't think
No,
so.
yeah, I don't think we do.
No, we have
Do we
which
have
one's the
the
progress
47?
reports to parents. 4712, right?
We have
Yeah,
12,
we
yeah,
have-
12, but not 14, but I feel like in those, like, there are things that we already say in our grading systems policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could we change like our title from grading systems to grading systems in parent communication, something
Yeah,
like
and
that?
student progress reports. I mean, could you put it all together?
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of like,
Okay.
because otherwise we're repeating, if
Right.
there's an additional sentence.
Absolutely.
I think we need to look at them and make that decision as we kind of
Yeah.
come together. So then I added progress, I added the changing of the grades, huge component there. And then I did add at the bottom, other things that districts have that I noticed that we didn't. Right, so there's the minimum grade. Right, I just cut and pasted what other districts have. This district doesn't have 50, right, it's 45s and 40s.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? That kind of jumped out at me as being low, right, like,
Yeah, I'd like to talk to the staff. I'd like to get their input on
like
it,
if
like,
you have 240s and 280s, like you're still failing.
Right.
Right, like,
right, and some districts do, again, it's like the first 3 quarters, they first 3 quarters, some districts do the first 2 quarters. Or they do the first quarter of each semester, like, there's a lot of things that you can do here, and I think that comes down to this is a hot button topic for staff. I will tell you over the years that I've seen this one, I've been administrator for 20 years now. Every time you start to talk about grading and grade book and minimum grades, there's emotions that come along with this just because it's what people do every single day, right? So, getting some input is going to be helpful.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the perspectives on that.
There's a lot of different perspectives and reasons. And that's why we're doing a lot of work about grading for opportunity right now and the purpose of grades. So calculating final average. And I think this comes down to what you were talking about a little bit already.
Yeah, I don't understand. I just made a note with a question mark there. It may be applied up to a value of 20%. I don't understand.
This again, I just cut and pasted.
Yeah, I think if we're taking out the region stuff, that should,
Probably come out. I'm not sure I understand what we're trying to say there.
Yeah, again, I just pulled.
yeah.
I think this is one where the teachers have discretion on it. Possibly. And then pass fails and completes, again, we don't, and there is some of that in the curriculum guide.
Mhm.
So that is there, we don't have it here, if you don't have to. So, just waiting for new entrants. Parent assessments, and then parent communication is here as well. Right, and that goes down to that 4712 we were talking about, where you could put it in together in this. Again, these are coming out of regulations. This is where I pulled it from. In this one district right here, I thought this one was interesting. A minimal final grade of 64 is required to receive course credit. A grade of 64 is not to be used for a marking period for a final grade. It's right out of the district.
Yeah.
And it was so long ago, I don't know what district I pulled.
Yeah, no, I know we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I guess it's almost like, slap in the face, right? To be like,
Yeah.
you still failed. That's terrible.
And that's what 64 is meant to.
Well, it's not meant to be. I mean, you can mathematically get a 64, that's what it is. But I think people look at it as, with your grading, why is it a 64? Was it homework not done? Was it percentage? And then this is the bigger problem, right? When you're doing a 64 and you have participation as a grade average, which you can't quantify. Okay, well, they got a 0 for participation, but they got all this other stuff, and they had 70s and 80s on all their tests, and they got a 64. That's where, and again, not saying that happens, but it could. I think I'm just giving you worst case scenarios of how things are and why things like this come up. So thoughts on this one is, should we start working on this policy at the next, like every meeting, start taking 10 to 15 minutes of this grading policy and you start tweaking it?
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So
I say we do it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Well, yes, but, you've been very clear in saying that there are a lot of people that have very strong feelings about this, so are you going to be gathering that information? Because what I'm hearing is you'll bring it to the board and we start making changes. Is that going to cause?
Oh, 100%. But no, but let me give my example of what I'm thinking though.
Yeah.
I think there are things in here that we can make those conversations right now. So let's solidify the changing of the grade, right? So the changing of the grade one that NISBA recommended already, we don't have as part of the policy. We can check that off, add that, say, yep, we want to add it, fix that language. That could be 10 to 15 minutes of one meeting. We have that done. The adding of the Bethlehem and the expectation of what grades are, that can be another 10 to 15 minutes. And then as we are doing that for a couple months, at the same time, then we can be having the conversations internally about what are grades really in the building? What do you feel about the 50s? Like those other hot button topics, we can start gathering data. So I feel like we can do it at the same time. Does that make sense? Because I don't think this is one that we work on for 2 months and then bring to the board as a first read. I think if we work on it 15 minutes every meeting and pick very specific areas, we'll move quicker. Ready?
Couple of things. One, in other hot button policy topics, we've brought stakeholders into board meetings. Like, is this a situation where you think, based on the feedback you've received thus far, it would be helpful to invite building principals, counselors, et cetera, some, teachers who have strong opinions? Like,
Yeah, I
do you
think
want
so.
to do it that way?
Well, I think I'd rather have the building leadership teams start tackling some of this and having those conversations, and then those teams identify people to bring. So
That's
like,
fine,
so
yeah.
the building leadership teams are, it's teachers, it's building principals, it's staff members. So those leadership teams could work together, have those conversations that I'm talking about, and then say December, come in and sit down with us and say,
December's really far away.
this is a policy.
You
not
mean
for
this
year."
December?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
Okay, I thought you meant 26.
no,
I was like, I might not be here.
no. I meant this December because
Okay.
this is not a policy that, anything that's changed on this one is gonna have to be for the following year. Right? We're already mid-year, already working. So I'm thinking we give the staff members time to really talk and have conversations about this. Then we bring in a counselor, a principal, have them come in December. We've already done the changing of the grade, maybe some overall expectation and thought process that do it. And then we should be right down to the nitty-gritty key points that we want to kind of discuss.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I don't really want to spend like 15 minutes each meeting. I feel like it could take us 6 months.
Yeah,
I would prefer we just like bang out, as painful as that might
yeah,
be.
let's,
And then the other point I wanted to ask about was,
You have a note there, overall grade inflation.
are there any policies you've come across that have tackled that?
no, but I know, like, I've heard that about middle school, right? Like, that's one that has been brought up. I think one of our board members have brought it up before in public session. Like, this is
Yeah, I
not something
probably have.
you
That's
and,
important.
and a couple other board members
Yep.
too, then let's be honest.
Yep.
So, there's always a question about grade inflation that comes up. I haven't seen anything about grade inflation, but I think the point is if we're clear on what grading is, then does that take care of any question? Yeah, it should follow the other. That's kind of where I'm thinking. If we're clear and we have expectations and it's codified, grading inflation conversation kind of goes away. A little bit more.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I think the time to really like focus on it is middle school, because that's when we're transitioning from this 1 to 4 scale to a new like numerical scale.
Right, and then the question comes, do we go to standard-based grading in the middle school? Which is a completely different conversation. I want to throw it out there.
Say that again.
Standards-based grading, which is you're getting rid of the numerical component of it for middle school, and it's all based on your standards. Did they meet the expectation of the standard in that grading?
Kind of like the heady rating.
Yep. Yeah.
Highly effective,
Yeah.
effective development.
Yeah, so standards-based grading is kind of the equitable way to grade, and it gets rid of the numeric, but yeah, I know, this community I already thought would not be a huge fan of all of it, but and again, that's a huge conversation. I'm not throwing that out there as something likely to get to, so. Tackle this one at the next meeting, or work on it?
So just want to be a little bit clearer in terms of what the process is. So at the next meeting, you envision having a board discussion of this policy.
At this meeting.
Well, that's the first question. Are you talking about full board or are you talking about policy?
Well, this is, so as a superintendent, I can give you recommendations, and you, as a board, you really have the ability to say yes or no to my recommendations for policy. This is the board curriculum committee. I don't think we're ready yet to have a conversation with the full board, right? I think we should first draft a policy, or at least bring something to them beforehand, having a conversation, because otherwise we'll just be spinning. I think this group probably should just, next meeting, tackle what we talked about, get down to it, and then if there's areas saying, we really want the building team on this, or we really want stakeholder input on this, that can kind of help guide where we go. And then we do that in November, December, then we have the team come in. That makes a little bit more sense to me. And then we could probably get to the board in January and or February with at least not even a first draft, but a draft for conversation and feedback to review.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought, but for some reason Took having the full board in mind. Now I understand. And
I could be wrong. I'm thinking that might be logical steps.
Yeah.
By the way, I was thinking we had 2 more meetings before December. We only have one. That's why I was like, that's why I said 15 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I defer to Matt, of course, but I would prefer that we put together a draft that at least nails down some of the components that we've talked about today, and then you can share that with the principals.
Yeah.
And they can use it to guide their conversations.
Because I think there's things in this policy that you're going to say no, like the recommending ones. No, we don't need them, right? Like, and there's things that you're going to say no, I really want to. That's kind of where I need to understand.
can you create a draft that does in fact merge in the 47?
Well, let's look at 4712 then and see
Okay.
see what we can do. We probably can. I'm sure we could.
But I like that path forward, is to have something to really dive into, to work on.
Yeah. So the next meeting, we spend all of our time really focusing in on that area.
Yeah.
Then principals have time now through December, because I'll share our conversation with them. So I'll have them focus that with their building leadership teams. So that way they're all having good conversations. They can do that at all their different needs they have. And then we focus back. And this aligns with the work we're doing with tier 1 interventions. It aligns with the Heidi, the Dr. Kelly Brock work. I mean, all of this stuff, the timing is perfect. Our whole English department is going for grading and for opportunity professional development. So like the timing of this is right. We're here. So
Yeah,
it's good.
we need to get it done
Yeah.
this year.
You're saying the first draft by December or
First
by
draft,
January, February?
I would say January, February.
Okay.
For the board.
Yeah. Because then we
Because
can bring.
I'm sorry,
Go
but if we have principals and other stakeholders in December, we can use January to firm up a policy that probably would then get.
And then I think by that point, we'll probably have to go back. And
Yeah.
make some tweaks and changes and stakeholder input again before we move forward.
Yeah, but at least it would be like, we could put it up for a second read. I mean, it would be technically a second read that we could, or we could just put it up as a discussion draft.
And I'd favor that.
Yeah.
You could put it up as a first read, allowing people to provide input. And I think that's going to include both internal and external.
Mhm.
So that's why we're here, is to get them.
Mhm.
So I like that. And then it gives you plenty of time to go back, make those tweaks, and then have the place by the end of the school year for the beginning.
I think this is exciting. Good. 4712?
Yeah.
All right. On my computer, I apologize. So I have Bethlehem's 4712 for you all to look at. Because it's very similar to ours, but with a slight change. I gave you Gilliam's 4712.
No, this is Bethlehem.
No, I know, but in the
Yeah, in the folder.
folder, it's Gilliam's. I printed off Bethlehem's because I'm on.
So I'm tracking.
Yes, kind of on the show. It's what kind of where I wanted you to see.
How are they both based off of a NISBA policy?
That's kind of where, and this is why, it comes down to the voice of the district, right? That's really where this stuff is. And that's why I just wanted to have that conversation because it's all different.
I will say, this is not specific to this policy, but I do like the way Bethlehem at the top identifies where this policy fits in the policy manual.
Yeah.
Prior revised dates, like that's something we
It's
moved to the
it's on the
bottom,
bottom.
but like, I like the way that's all up front.
It's nice.
They use board docs for formatting more so than
Mhm.
anything.
Yep.
Ours is an important aspect of the instructional program. Theirs just goes right down into it is recognize the recorded student progress is an important aspect, right? And it talks about report cards, parent teacher conferences.
It's
That's, yeah,
peace in. I don't even know what that is.
No. it's Title I stuff. I think this policy was written for Title I justification to go along with it and not for everything else. And then if you look at it, it talks about the secondary report cards. And then staff members are urged to maintain informal contact with parents through telephone calls and emails. It's not required.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that has to change.
And that's, and then under provision of Title I academic. So that's, and if you can see Bethlehem's, there's Bethlehem's. Now I want to pull up the other ones for you, just so you can see differences in policies. That's all right.
Sure.
You know. Takes me a second. Okay. Is that ours? That's ours.
You killed it one up.
Oh, my computer had the wrong one. Similar to our language, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm not mistaken, those are components that really are more in our 47. Right? The report
Right,
cards, what they
exactly,
sent
yeah.
out and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
And you showed us Gilliland's 4710, which seemed like that whole first section is
As our,
repeated.
yeah, and that's what Artie was talking about.
Yeah.
I think we could look at ours and say, what's progress on for students? And then what is an expectation of progress on for students? If a student is failing, if a student is,
Yeah.
yes, we're doing 3 with report cards, but there should be effort made. Again, requiring and saying you have to do might end up becoming an impact issue because you're changing expectation.
Right.
Well-
Are you getting at whether it needs to be bargained?
I don't know for sure.
I mean, because my take on it is teachers have always been required to communicate with parents. Like
Yeah.
if someone now thinks that's not the case, I'd be very concerned about it. I don't know what you think, but that to me seems.
What I'm comfortable saying is that at a minimum.
Yeah.
There's a potential, just not, why is it, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
there's
That
always,
there is a potential impact bargaining issue,
Yeah.
which I completely understand. If impact bargaining, if you are going to request, you're gonna issue a directive, which if it's a managerial right to issue a directive, you don't have to bargain the decision to issue the directive at a minimum. there's going to be a right to say, well, that's gonna take extra time from my day, so I wanna negotiate time to do it, or during the workday, or
Compensation.
for, you know, time spent outside of the workday, which is not uncommon. We've seen both parties.
And again, this is why I have to, when we're having these conversations, and we're recording, so I want to be clear on this. I have to share all viewpoints, right? Like with you, I need to be very clear, like, yeah, I think we can do this. I think it'd be good, but there is always a possibility. Now, is it considered a professional responsibility to call home? Yeah, 100% it is. Is it a professional responsibility that you should be communicating with families in a timely manner if their child is not doing well, not just expecting the 3-week? Great. If you're doing the 3-week report card and you're doing the 3 grade updates, then it better be perfect then. Because then if that's going to be the requirement of communication, then it's got to be clear, right? It can't be, well, I forgot to do that, or I didn't put it in the time frame yet. So, and again, grades can be difficult because it's based on timing. There's another issue. If you're 2 weeks in and the kid is failing, they might, all of a sudden your grades can change in a week because of a big test or other issues, and the kid could have a meeting.
Well, that's the other thing. I don't, and then those are the competing interests. I don't want to interfere with the professional discretion, which is, I don't want to make a call home at 2 weeks into the school year and really impact the parent and child morale, and freak them out, for lack of a better word. 2 weeks, 3 weeks in is different versus.
I will tell you, we currently have.
Point of no.
Yeah, I will share a positive. There's a staff member with one of my children. I have 3 children, so it could be any staff member in the district, so that's a good thing, And we get bi-weekly emails or timely emails based off things that they're seeing, and it's been very helpful. It's been great, And it's I was like, this morning we're like, thank you so much. This is a great partnership. And and it's a quick little email, but boy, it's helped us keep on track and be a partner with our child's education. So I mean, those are the things I think as a school district we want, right? We want to see how do we create a policy that reflects that. So 4712 could be, I think we could cut and paste this and add it in and key points into progress reports right into the policy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that we say enough in here that it's sustainable.
So next week, then our goal will then be to next month will be to combine this policy, draft out the policy, and then we'll have to abolish 4712 eventually.
So will our starting point, you'll provide us with a full draft? And
Yeah,
policy?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll start merging the two together. I'm not going to change any languages though. I'll just merge them. So then I can at least do that. And then I'm going to keep can we go back to 4710 real quick, if that's all right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything currently in that policy that you want me to remove where it's superintendent draft, so that way when I'm drafting it, I don't add it?
Yeah.
Like it just might make my life a little bit easier.
So you already removed the stuff about the regions.
Yeah,
I
lined it out, so.
Yep.
I can take that out already. I think then the question is going to come up is, did we account for where the grading for regions will be? I think we just need to make sure that we know that answer. So.
That paragraph that's highlighted there, grading shall not be used for disciplinary purposes. Like there are parts of other policies that get at that in a more holistic way. That I think we can substitute that. I get what we're saying.
That's also like that 64 goes to that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that is in another policy.
It's in like, I think we can pull it from some of the other ones that we've looked at.
Okay.
Do you want me to remove it from this policy completely?
I would say, if you want to just keep it in for now, I think it can be a reminder to us to like
Right. Yeah.
pull something even
That was
better.
first of my
Yeah.
top of my
Yeah.
mind was that if it's not there, then we can just forget about it.
Any of these things, like the minimum grades you want to leave for now, and I'll just create a minimum grade section. Yeah, but we don't need the rest of this stuff, right? I'll create a section for minimum grades. I just wanna
Yeah.
make sure that when I'm drafting it.
Yeah. And maybe that could follow from the
Yeah.
punitive.
Oh, yeah, and the punitive there. Calculation of final average, that's might be a whole different policy altogether. Cause then that's what you're talking weighting or anything else. Do you think that needs to be in this policy for now?
I mean, I always assumed that it was the first bullet. That it was,
All the way
if it's a
up.
semester class, it's the average of the two. If
Yeah.
it's like, I
It's a whole
never,
year, then it's.
yeah, I never realized we needed to say more than that.
So I'll review. Right,
Yeah, I mean, I
don't
defer to
think we-
you on whether we need
I don't think we need it.
to say that.
Well, let me look at it.
Especially also with like regions, not.
Yeah.
Factoring in.
Yeah, we might want to be able to, well, are we gonna say that this is the question? Right now, the percentage of readings does count. Are we gonna take it completely out? I don't think staff would. Or we just leave it as.
Do
it
they,
is.
do they want it?
Yeah, I think they do. I think that was part of the battle.
But if
I'll have a
region,
conversation.
yeah, if region, yeah, maybe this is a topic for discussion that you
Yeah.
can, we can hear.
Okay,
more on.
I'm going to look at our curriculum guide, so additional grading systems and all these other things, those are on our curriculum guide. Pass fails or anything like that. Do you want me to take that out of our curriculum guide or leave it in?
Should we have to do reference the curriculum guide in the policy? Say buildings may maintain curriculum.
Yeah, so look,
Will
there's-
or may that are consistent with this.
So a failing grade, the first half of a 4-year course for grades below 50 and F will be calculated as 50 in the overall average. So that's in here. So that 50 is in the curriculum guide, not anywhere else in the policy. That's only for high school. So let me look at the curriculum guide. Okay.
I think it's important to include the incomplete and medical. Like somewhere,
Yeah.
just because
Right.
when those questions come up, people are gonna look for the policy.
Right, but could that be in the building level procedures?
But how is it visible to like me as parent, if my
Right.
kid is like gonna be out for 10 days because of an illness, like, I want somewhere I can look to understand
Right,
how it's gonna impact the grades.
building handbooks.
Yeah, I mean, it should definitely be, if it's not in a policy, it
Right.
should be in the handbook, but, I mean, usually the handbook refers back to policy, so.
Yeah, I'll draft it with all that in for now. Again, I'm just want to make sure that there's nothing here that I don't want to waste time on that doesn't need to. Grading of new entrants,
Yeah, I would keep it in.
yeah, I think so. And then parent communication, that will be where I add 4710. Right,
Yeah,
or
and
12.
I put will, call, and email, we might wanna add call
Yeah, we can.
Text.
Yeah,
or and.
Yeah, I mean, again, up for this, it'll be subject of discussion. I mean, maybe language that allows them to choose to call and email, because realistically, some parents may be very responsive to emails and a phone might not be necessary, so.
we could
Yeah.
use something.
Well, we
Will
can-
utilize districts.
Sure.
Communication tools.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I will draft this out now, make it a little bit clearer, format it a little bit better. And then we can just tackle it. I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah, and, one of my beefs, which you have heard me complain about, was the form email to parents to indicate that their student was failing, like 3 weeks before the end of the quarter.
Mhm.
And I was assured it wasn't form email, but it was the same email from multiple teachers and multiple, not just 2, 3. So it's hard to put any credibility in the fact that there wasn't some form template for communicating that type of information. So we need to think about
Right.
describing the communication as providing valuable information other than
Right.
the fact that your student is not,
Well, I think an important thing is training, right?
Individual.
explaining what the issue is.
Well, we expect people to have a conversation with a parent, right? We say, you're gonna go have a conversation with a parent. Have they ever been really trained on how to have that conversation? Not everybody has the skills.
Yeah, no, that's
Right?
fair. That's
And
totally
these
fair.
are things that, making sure that when they communicate home, what do parents want? We can even say parents don't want form emails, right? They want substantive information that's timely and concise for the parent. Or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
tailored to this,
yeah.
the student's performance. For lack of-
but that comes down to training, right? And expectations and vision,
And I get that
Yeah.
these are unpleasant conversations to have. They're unpleasant for everybody.
yeah.
But,
It doesn't mean somebody's doing something bad. It just
no,
means that
but they have to
we can
happen.
tweak what we do to help support them, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be a critique. Trust me. Yeah, I live in that world. You get them all the time,
Yeah.
even unsolicited on Facebook and Instagram. But critiques sometimes can be helpful. So even the unsolicited. All right.
Sounds good.
Anything else on this?
No.
Did I miss anything?
So, I don't think so.
No,
Thank you.
it's a lot. We're
Yeah, I didn't want to overwhelm.
That's why,
everyone.
yeah. People are gonna, we will eventually get back to the more kind of routine stuff of those municipal policies, but frankly, I thought it would be a good time to start having some substantive discussions about some policies.
Yeah.
Particularly when as we keep putting out updates to the same policy 4 quarters in a row.
Yeah, it's
They can wait.
frustrating.
They can wait and thought this was good time as any to have a good substantive discussion about this, which I know has been waiting through. So with that, I guess we'll adjourn and we'll be back here.